Howdy guys, so welcome back for another video. So I thought I'd be doing the films of James Mangold today, as I've just recently finally gotten around to seeing the new Indiana Jones film, The Dial of Destiny, which was the final film I had to see of his. So now I've seen all 12 of James Mangold's films, and he is definitely one of my favorite, or not say top 10 favorite, but he is a director that I really admire and like because he has been able to over just 12 films do so many different genres. And you've got superhero films, you've got Indiana Jones, you've got cop movies and car movies and comedies, as well as a supernatural, or not supernatural, it's like psychological thriller in the vein of Hitchcock, as well as music biographies and things like that. So a really good director with a wide range of films. And so I just thought I'd go through and rank all 12 of his feature films so far. And I think he's also set to do a Bob Dylan film, which he's currently filming, and as well as a Star Wars film down the track, so that's pretty cool too. So starting off here, we have Girl Interrupted, which is a film from the late 90s with Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie. I remember watching this a few years ago and thinking it was decent. Kind of like a psychological drama film about these girls in like a mental ward, I think. I don't remember too much about it other than I did enjoy it enough. I thought it was solid, so it's going to be a B tier film for me. Next up we have Identity, which is definitely in the vein of like a Hitchcockian psychological thriller with John Cusack, and it's only a short 90-minute film, but I really love the atmosphere of this movie because it kind of sets you up to think that it's just your run-of-the-mill serial killer whodunit kind of thriller, but then it has this really interesting plot twist towards the end that kind of adds a whole new layer to the film. And yeah, I just really enjoy it for all those reasons, and it's just a quick, fun 90-minute thriller with a great kind of rainy, stormy night atmosphere to it. I think I probably enjoy it more than most people. I'm going to chuck it up in the A tier because it's definitely a solid, entertaining film for me. Next up we have Night and Day with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz. So this is just like a typical kind of action romantic comedy film. It's nothing too special. It's just okay. Like it's funny enough. It's fine while you're watching it, but it's a very forgettable kind of run-of-the-mill action comedy film. There's nothing particularly wrong with it or anything like that. It's just kind of one of those movies when you see the poster, you know what you're going to get, what you're expecting, and then you pretty much get that. So it's a C tier film. It's not horrible, but it is just okay for what it is. 3:10 to Yuma is a really good kind of modern Western action film with great performances from Christian Bale and Russell Crowe. It's a really good movie, actually. I really like 3:10 to Yuma. It's very close to being an S tier film, but when comparing it to some of these others, it's not quite there. So I'm going to put it at the top of the A tier. I haven't watched it in a few years, but I always enjoy returning to it. I have it on Blu-ray, and Christian Bale and Russell Crowe are two very good actors, and they really play off each other really well here. And it's just a really fun kind of revenge thriller, but set in a Western setting and background and things like that. So that's something that's really cool about it too. Hang on, buddy. Next up we have his first film, which is kind of like a indie drama film, I guess you could call it, and that's Heavy. So this is not one of my favorite movies of his, though it was his first feature film. You can kind of give a bit of leeway for that, but still it's just a kind of run-of-the-mill C tier film for me. Had some interesting performances, but I don't remember the movie all that well. I did watch it a few years back, but I just remember thinking it was just okay, and there was nothing super special or entertaining about it. It was more of a small town character study film with Liv Tyler, I think her name is, from the Lord of the Rings films. But yeah, it was okay. So next up we have an amazing film, Ford vs Ferrari. This is just one of those crowd pleasers that everyone loves. It's a movie that's like 2.5 hours long as well, but it flies by. It's very fast-paced. It's very entertaining. It does its job really well. You have great performances, great action, great visuals, great car sequences. You've got Christian Bale, who's always great. Gives another top performance here, as well as Matt Damon. And just a real crowd-pleaser type film. And it's definitely one of Mangold's best movies, definitely up in the S tier. And I think my brother actually worked on the visual effects on that film as well as this next one as well. So, and they're both great films. So the next one is Logan. Obviously, set in the X-Men universe, but much further down the track, with a much older Wolverine and a much more darker kind of story than we've gotten from any of the previous X-Men films. So Logan's a very dark, violent movie, but it's also very, very good. It's not your typical kind of superhero film in any way. It kind of separates itself from that superhero genre. It doesn't make things big or flashy or epic. It's actually a lot more gritty and grimy and violent, and with a great performance from a very angry Hugh Jackman in this film, who just plays an old, worn-out Wolverine or Logan, who has pretty much just come to the end of his tether. But it's just a super dark, fun, violent, revenge action thriller film, more so than a superhero film. And so for being so different from the genre and just taking things in a new direction in a superhero genre that's so worn out these days and just does the same things, it's cool because it stands out as something different. So that's going to be up the top of the S tier as well. And I think my brother did work on that with the visual effects also, which is pretty cool. So next we have, again, going into a completely different genre. This is like a strange science fiction, romantic, time-traveling family drama film. I don't know, Kate and Leopold. Anyway, I remember watching this quite a few years ago and just not really connecting with it at all, the characters or the story. I understood what it was doing, but I didn't really feel that it was anything special. It kind of felt like a TV movie to me. I do like Hugh Jackman and I do like a few of Meg Ryan's 90s films, but this film just didn't really work for me. It was kind of, had an interesting premise, but it's another C-tier film that it's probably my least favourite of James Mangold's movies, so I'm going to put it at the bottom just because it didn't work for me personally. Next up we have Indiana Jones and a Dial of Destiny. So this is the new film from Mangold. Came out about a year ago now, actually, but I'm a huge fan. Me and my brother love the Indiana Jones trilogy. We grew up with them. So the first three films are great. I love all three of them. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull I still think is good, but I don't think it's great by any means. And Dial of Destiny, it just feels like a very unnecessary film. Like Harrison Ford's like 80, and it's just sad kind of watching him trying to be Indiana Jones still, but it's also depressing because he's like failing throughout the whole film, and you've got this really horrible character who's played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I think her name is, and I just hated her character in this film. Like, she's just so annoying the whole time, and she really was the weakest part of this movie for me because she just is at odds with like Indy the whole time and is constantly throwing him under the bus and putting him down, and it feels like, why are you doing this? This is our main character, he should be the hero, and you're just like constantly smashing him and throwing him under the bus and like being an idiot to him. And like, I just couldn't stand her character in the film, and unfortunately that really brought the movie down for me. I still probably would put it at the same level as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where I enjoyed it but I didn't love it, and there were things about it that I obviously really didn't like namely her character, as well as some decisions that came at the end of the film with her character and what she decided to do I didn't agree with. But it still had some great action scenes. It had a great musical score from John Williams, some good visual effects, and again, my brother worked on this film too, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, like overall, it was just kind of disappointing in many ways, but it's still not a film that I disliked or would put low on this list, because there is still like a lot I liked about it too. So it's a very hard film to rank for me because it's just, there's so much that I like and so much that I dislike that I'm going to probably chuck it in the B tier, to be honest. Like I said though, there's a lot wrong with the movie. There's a lot I like about the movie, but it's just all over the place, unfortunately. And it's probably a bit too long as well. It's like 2.5 hours long. But yeah, which is unfortunate. But next up we have Copland. So this is actually a really good film. I think it was only his second film from '97, but you got a great cast here with Sylvester Stallone, Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta, and Robert De Niro as well. And it's just a really solid kind of action drama thriller about this cop who's standing up against all these corrupt cops. And it's a film that I've only watched once, but I keep wanting to get it on Blu-ray and watch it again, so I might have to do that soon. But it's a really solid film. I'm going to put it at the top of the B tier because it's definitely a better film all round than Indiana Jones. But yeah, it's not as good as these A-tier films I have, but it's definitely a solid early film from Mangold. So next up we have Walk the Line. This is the Johnny Cash biopic that he did in 2005, and I'm a real big fan of Johnny Cash's music, and it was mainly through this film that I heard his music. And I also really admired that Joaquin Phoenix did all his own singing for the film, because he's actually a really good singer in the vein of Johnny Cash style. And like, his voice is really good for the character, and his performance was great here. Reese Witherspoon was great here. The music was great. I think the movie is just a fantastic musical biopic. It's one I have on Blu-ray, but I haven't gotten around to watching in quite a few years, but I've always really enjoyed the film. It's quite long, but it does cover a lot of his life and a lot of his problems with drugs and alcohol and things like that. But it just, yeah, really shows the man behind the music and everything, and I thought it was a really good film, and easily one of Mangold's best films, as well as one of Joaquin Phoenix's best performances. So it's definitely another solid S-tier film there. And lastly, we have The Wolverine from 2013. So before Mangold did Logan, he did The Wolverine, which is much more of a typical kind of by-the-book superhero film from the X-Men franchise. It did stand out a little bit being different, obviously just focusing on the character again. But like I said, it's definitely more mainstream in a lot of ways than Logan is, where it's a bit more CGI heavy. It's a PG-13 M-rated film, so it's not as gory or violent, and it has big CGI robot fights at the end. And I think I feel the same as most people, where it's a solid film, but then it kind of falls apart in the last act, where you've got all this just big CGI fights going on and things like that. I did like the setting of the film being in Japan, though. That was pretty cool. The subway train sequence, not subway, I think it was just like a bullet train actually sequence, was really cool. And there is some great action in the film, but overall there's nothing amazing about it in the way that Logan is, but it was still good. It was solid, and I'm going to put it around the middle of the B tier near Indiana Jones, because it was still a good film, and I actually have it on Blu-ray as part of the collection and watch it every now and then still. So that's it, guys. All 12, I think it is, of James Mangold's films so far. And as I said, he's got like a Bob Dylan movie coming out and a Star Wars movie coming out, so he's continuing to go in lots of different directions with his styles and genres, which is really cool to see. He's a director that I really admire, and I like a lot of his films. But yeah, it's just unfortunate that his new Indiana Jones film was a bit of a letdown. Like I said, there were things I loved about it, but things I hated about it, so it's very up and down for me. But overall, he is a pretty solid director, though. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know down below what you think of these films, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.